Back in the saddle again. Welcome to 52 at 52. I'm Matt McDowell, counting down the 52 jobs I've had in 52 years. I struggled with this next one, job number 22, what to call it. And I've decided to call it Cubicle Worker, because that's what I did. I worked in a cubicle, and this was the first time that I worked in a cubicle. First and maybe only time. I worked for a company called Teleflora. I was a temp, so I worked there for about a month. I was also working at that blood drive job, see last episode, because the blood drive work was from 4 to midnight, and then so what are you going to do from 7 to 3? Well, I worked at Teleflora from 7 to 3. And I worked in the Teleflora, just to back up a little bit, what they did was they were like FTD, where you would, so what does FTD do? You would call up, say your grandmother lives in Dubuque, Iowa, and you live in, Redding, California, and you want to send her flowers for her Mother's Day or birthday or something like that. So what you would do is you would call up FTD, or you'd call up Teleflora and say, hey, I want, X amount of flowers sent to my grandmother, and they would take care of it. They would send the order over the telephone, or the teletype, or the fax, or whatever, and they would send it to Dubuque, Iowa, and they'd make it up, and boom, grandmother's happy, you're happy. You didn't have to go and travel fresh flowers anywhere. So there was FTD, and then there's Teleflora. And what I did is I worked in the directory department. So there was this big directory that they had that was this big for the whole nation, thick, the whole nation. And if it was organized, I'm sure it's just all online now, but back then it was paper because there was no internet, so to speak. I mean, it was vague inklings of internet. So you had this big telephone book, like directory kind of thing, and if you could put ads in, and then you have to buy the ads if you were a florist. And so it's like, oh, we serve the tri-state area, and we serve this, and this. And there's all these elaborate rules about who could, how many markets you could be in, and how far away you had to be, and if there was somebody else in a primary market, and then you could be a secondary market, and they were arcane rules, which I mastered in about a week and had to explain to these these florists who wanted to, muscle out their competition. They want to get in as many markets as you possibly could, right? Because you want to be serving as broad of a geographical area as possible. And that's what these florists would try to get away with. These pesky little florists. And I would have to be there to put the hammer down. They'd call me up. And and sometimes some of the stuff was a little complicated, and I'd be like, and my fellow coworkers, who were not temps, they would say, just tell them you're a temp. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's unprofessional. My first week there, all I did was I alphabetized. I think they had, or filed, I think they had like a year's worth of stuff that there was some sort of 9-digit number that for their filing system, and they had literally a table, like like an 8-foot table full of papers, and I had to file all those. Oh, I spent the first 5 days, 8 hours a day, filing. Man, you want to talk about completely mind-numbing. Just number, okay, which numbers? Okay, got that number, good, sequential numbers. It was crazy, mind-numbing, but you get to this, it was almost like a meditation. You get to this deeper level of understanding of the numbers. You have, sometimes when you work at a job and it's something new that you've done, and when you go to sleep at night, you see like the peripherals of that job. I would just dream imprinting. So you'd file all day, and then at night you're still filing in your dreams. You're like, this is what we're doing now. We're just putting numbers in a sequence. The reason I call it a cubicle job, because I worked in a cubicle, and it was like the people were pretty nice. One guy was a heavy metal bass player. That was his real life that he wanted to do, but he also worked at the Teleflora. Another woman fought for bus rights because people got a parking pass to park in the building. If you took the bus, she says, you should pay for my bus pass. And so she fought for that and got that. These were earnest, hardworking people, Teleflora. And even today when I go past that building on, I think it was on Santa Monica, or Olympic, I think it was on Olympic in West Los Angeles. I look at that. I think it's still there. They got it's a big white, the building's not white. It had a white dove carrying something, Teleflora, yeah. And again, I would work there from 7 to 3, and then I would get off and I would go to my blood drive job from 4 to midnight and repeat. One of my rules of this project is not to try to delve too much into the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or why did I do that, or why did I leave that job, or what happened there, or why didn't you put your time to better use? And this would be a good time to adhere to that rule, because who knows what I was thinking about working from 7 in the morning to midnight for like a month straight. What did I need the money for? Who knows? It kept me out of trouble. That's for darn sure. My favorite story about working at Teleflora, though, came many years later when a good friend of mine, Steve Santori, we're telling stories, and I'm always telling stories about jobs and stuff. And I go, yeah, I worked at Teleflora, and it was right around all these big. It was around January, I think, and so the big orders were this Snoopy Love Bouquet. It was the Snoopy Love Bouquet, which was the big. Everyone was going to sell the Snoopy Love Bouquet, which was Snoopy with "I love you" with some flowers and stuff. And Steve, who was an artist, he goes, "I designed that." Years later, connections. You meet the guy who designed Snoopy Love Bouquet for Teleflora. That's famous. As I say it now, it doesn't sound that exciting, but at the time, it was quite exciting. And this job also, I started to delve into the area, which kind of has continued, where your skill set is not very apparent. I mean, here's your skill set. You type on a computer and you talk on the phone and you think about things and you have to solve problems. But as far as like if someone looks like if you're building bicycles, like, oh, look, like I can weld, or if you're making a table, or if you're laying pipe, or being an electrician or a doctor or a dentist, boom, skills, I'm doing these particular things. Whereas these next jobs that I'm going to, I'm sitting at a desk and I'm talking on the phone and I'm typing different things. And they're very ephemeral. Like if you were in a science fiction movie and you came back and saw what people did, and it's like they're all just kind of doing this. It's like, oh, this is a civilization in decline. They've forgot their trades and their skills because all they do is type and look off into the distance. I guess that's the beginning of the end. I mean, think about your own job, and I got to be honest with you, probably 90% of it is you just looking at a screen, typing stuff and talking to people on the phone. And now we don't have to talk, so it's just typing. I guess my dad was a typing teacher, so he was ahead of the curve there. I have to be honest with you, I have never to this day ever used FTD or Teleflora. Yikes. Here they were paying my bills, paying rent. I didn't have the common courtesy to use their services. What does that say about me? Well, one, it says that I don't have a grandmother who lives in Dubuque, Iowa. I should start using Teleflora. And Teleflora was pretty big. It was the upstart. It was like the number 2. FTD was established, and we were like the scrappy upstart. Anyway, that's my job. Job number 22, Cubicle Worker, Teleflora Directory Assistance. My name's Matt McDowell. Thanks for watching. Thanks for visiting. Make sure you like this page and tell your friends about it and subscribe. I just saw the other day I had some dislikes. Wow. Seriously? No, I'll probably cut that part out. I think my wife actually put some of those dislikes on there. You shouldn't talk about your dislikes. There are people that don't like you. But I just did. Snoopy Love Bouquet. Steve Santori. Rock star in the art world. He's still making art. He's still doing stuff. Pretty awesome. I mean, how many people can say that I designed the Snoopy Love Bouquet? I'll tell you how many people. 1, Steve Santori. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye.